Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome to the one, the only iDube circuit for round number 2 of the Online Karting League Launch Cup. My name is Stephen Koenig, and joining me in the booth once again is Janneman Press. Janneman, glad to have you back here. And for round number 2 at iDube, welcome to a little bit more of a coastal side of things and a track that you haven't been to.
Hello there, Steve. Yeah, I haven't been to iDube yet. I at least know where it is in the world, close to Pietermaritzburg, Camperdown. So we're going down closer to the coast in this round. But what an exciting track! I mean, up, down, left, right, blind corners, tight hairpins. I've had a look at a couple of the guys on the practice server, and those cards look extremely loose on this track. It looks like it's going to be intense concentration all the way.
Well, with 12 corners and a little bit shorter than our previous circuit at the Vereeniging, which is round number 1, we've got a 1 kilometer circuit instead of a 1.14 kilometer circuit. But as we brought up, having those gradients is going to come into play, so the drivers having to set their cards up to handle the bigger gradients of the circuit. And the difference in camber, iDube circuit, also one heck of a circuit to go to with their own, well, self-capsulating setup, and also been beloved by many karters and many other races, like the short circuit racing, whether you're on bikes or whether you're in karting. This is definitely a circuit that you want to go and have a bit of fun at and go and rock around. We also do have our driver standings as well of who's leading out. So Janneman, take us through who is currently where in the championship after round number 1.
Well, with only one round being done, the championship at this stage very close. First place Troy Dolanchek on 35 points. Second place Lucas Sturman on 33. Third place Yuri Swart 32 points. Fourth place Chase Harold on 30 points. Fifth place Sean Stradom 23 points. So, Steve, as I said, one round done, it's all to play for. At this stage, you can't really look into those results too much because everything might change tonight.
That's it, and as we saw with round number 1, anything could happen. Guys having to really battle it out, but our stewards were hard at work after round number 1 to ensure everything is played fair with the racing. Now, I know Vereeniging karting circuit was a bit of a challenge for drivers to set up these almighty karts, but now moving on to the likes of iDube, it's going to be something incredible. As we go and take a look to our drivers currently finishing up their practice before moving on to qualifying. There we've got Ryan Barrington-Smith going and trying to improve his laps, and currently Troy Dolanchik up in first place, John Henry Vaughan in second place, Yuri Swart in third place. But you can see within a second of one another, right down till 11th place. Once again, very, very close racing. We are definitely going to be seeing here at the likes of iDube. As we take a look, there's Chase Harold as he comes through. You can see trying to slide the kart around, trying to carry as much momentum through the corners. And you'll see hard on the brakes, jacks up the rear, jacking up the front as well. Now, these karts are having to work incredibly hard. You can see the change in gradient and the change in camber starting to come to effect with these karts.
Yeah, especially if you go over the hill and you start approaching the down section. I mean, the front end inevitably will go light on you, and the kart will have an understeering effect, making it sometimes difficult to control and keeping it on the racetrack. So you're riding a fine line, as we see Chris Harold going wide there a little bit, and that's something we've seen quite a lot so far this evening on the practice server. The guys running wider, but clipping corners or clipping curbs a little bit. So let's see if that carries through right into the race.
Well, that's it as we are now heading through. But a big welcome to everyone to the YouTube channel. Glad to have you guys here. Like, we've got Volts, we've got Kritsi going and helping out, and Stephen Hepner as well going and saying welcome. So that's absolutely awesome to see new names coming in, older names transitioning from Facebook to YouTube. So once again, big thank you to you guys. Make sure you hit that subscribe button and hit that bell notification icon for when we go live once again. And well, I'm looking forward to seeing what guys are going to be able to do come qualifying, as we take a look at Lucas Sturman trying to get a bit of heat into the kart, sliding around, getting onto the dirt a little bit. Has got John Henry Vaughan going and diving up on him, and you can see just how these guys are having to slide and really focus on trying to get one up and carry enough momentum to start off their laps.
Yeah, I mean, that's also a fight for track position. They're trying to get as clear of a track as possible in front of them. So it looks like there's a bit of tussling going on this outlap. You know, just trying to get a bit of clear, as we see William Marshall, you know, lifting that rear wheel off the ground as he goes through the corner there.
Oh, it's going to be a good bit of fun. Sebastian Diaz also hoping to move, but it's John Henry Vaughan taking the top spot. Jason Coutinho in second. Sebastian Ferreira going and lying in third place at the moment. But it's all going to change. You can see,
there's a nose cone on the side of the track.
And Jason Coutinho going and venturing down the hill as well. So going and enjoying a little bit of the wildlife. I don't think the karts have four-wheel drive. Not these 125s. For anyone that doesn't know, we are in the 125 karts. They are what we call the KF3s, and they really have been putting on a fantastic show. Also, very interesting little bits to them. Revving to 14,000 RPM, only 28 brake horsepower, but with a combined weight of driver and kart, as in the sim, the 145 kilograms, which is actually very close to real life, how we put weights into these karts, some bits of lead, just to even out the entire field. Everyone's the same weight, so you can't even say my kart's heavier than yours. So it's purely down to skill. Troy Dolinchik up into first place. Yuri Swart into second. You can see Marshall just trying to get a little bit of steering. There is Shane Lobisher, who is going and really throwing his kart around, hoping to climb up the ladder as well. He's currently lying in fourth place, trying to get a little bit more momentum as he's getting onto the back of John Henry Vaughan. Oh, and there we go, into the wall, unfortunately. And that's so easy to do with just that change of camber, and going up the hill can land up with a problem. Jan Sparmers also, he's trying to make his way through. Jan Sparmers recently completing a 24-hour race in a VW Polo, in a VW Golf, and also doing well in polos. Actually, this weekend is going to be racing his polo, but he said that he wanted to go and have a bit of fun with karting. And this is actually, and I can be corrected, his first introduction to iDube. He has not physically raced around iDube, much like a couple of drivers here. But the ones that do have a bit of advantage, Troy Jolinchik, Yuri Swart, they've all climbed into karting, they've all raced iDube and moved their way up.
And I think that can certainly be a bit of an advantage tonight, because, you know, being out on this track for the first time, I think is kind of it's kind of a daunting experience. It's one of the more difficult tracks out there. It certainly looks like it with all these undulations. It's so you know, might we see different guys coming through tonight, the guys with the more experience, or is it going to be a fight, you know, between Troy and the likes of Yuri out in the front? To see, you know, at this stage Troy putting up a monstrous time, 43.38, but Yuri, you know, less than, I wanted to say Yuri, but now Jason could see it, you know, less than 0.1, and Yuri less than 0.1 of a second behind, and from there, you know, 0.4 of a second gap down to Andrew Thomas.
It's going to be a very interesting time for all these drivers trying to figure out what they can do. And let's see if we can actually go on board with one of the karts to get an idea of what it looks like. So we're going to just go and jump onto a bit of a nose cam, and we can see how the circuit looks. We're jumping on Troy Dolinchik at the moment as he slides his way through, hoping to get a little bit more drive. There's Jan Sparmers coming out of the pits, hard onto the brakes, into the right-hander, and you can see how easy it is to get the kart so unsettled. But now we are making our way to our start-finish line. It's a little bit further up ahead, and this is a bit of a climb for the karts up the hill. into the right-hander, slide it through. Now you're going to work your way down the hill, snaking your way through. It's all about keeping the power on. You can see keeping your throttle all the way in, hoping that the mechanical grip is going to keep you going. Onto the charge, into another tight right-hander, slide it in, try and keep back onto that throttle, run as close as you can to the grass, making sure not to land up with a problem. Into a very tight corner, and you can see guys just losing it. So the right-handers definitely coming into play. Tire wear is going to come into play as well, especially on these karts, as they really have to slug it out. You can hear right up onto the rev limiter as they're pushing to try and get a little bit quicker. And Troy Dolenchek going and really trying to stretch that lead by ever so little.
Yeah, I mean, watching this lap of Troy, I mean, Steve, what's your thought? You know, I'm sitting here looking at this, and as he approaches the corner, you just think to yourself, there ain't no way he's going to make it. And then the kart just sticks through the corners.
Well, that's it. And that's what makes this class so much more fun. And karting was why it's called grassroots racing, because the guys are having to really figure out how to improve every time. What do they need to do? And with no assists like ABS, no assists or like traction control, you have to learn the true fundamentals, and you get battered and broken in kart racing. And even in the sim karts, a lot of these guys are using direct drive motors, or using using very powerful sim rigs that they're actually getting worn down. They've turned the force feedback up just like a kart to get that direct feel, so they start wearing down. That buildup of acid reflux starts to kick in. Your wrists start feeling a little bit, taking a bit of abuse. Also, you're running load cell pedals in the rigs to just try and help with the braking. So even though it's a sim, these guys are going to be working hard, just as hard as when they're racing in a kart.
I mean, it can wear you down literally after a couple of laps. I mean, something like a direct drive wheel puts a lot of strain on the upper arms, on the shoulders. So, you know, for the viewers out there who think these guys are lounging back in a chair, they're doing some proper hard work in those rigs, trying to keep these karts on track.
Lots of interesting racing. Jansbaum's coming out onto the circuit. Not much time left in qualifying though, and this is where it's going to get a little bit interesting for everyone, as they're going to try and figure out what can they do to try and climb their way up through the ladder. At the moment, Troy Dolenchek top of the ladder, with Jason Kutsia chasing him down. Yuri Swartz in third place, Quinton Lobisher, John Henry Vaughan in fifth place, Lucas Sturman in sixth place. Keep an eye on Luca, he's been doing really, really well, hoping to get a little bit more drive up through the field. And go from there. We've got William Marshall, Andrew Thomas, very well named for anyone that doesn't know, Judy Swart, Ryan Barrington-Smith. There's Sebastian Diaz actually going and falling off. So Ryan Barrington-Smith, or Ryan, Mr. Berry as some people know him as, Sean Lobisher down in 11th place, Mahar Webb in 12th place along with Chase Holt. Sebastian Diaz, as we saw, spinning out a little bit earlier, currently in 14th place. Melvin Trollope, Jan Sparmers, and Sebastian Ferreira going and rounding out our field of 18 karts. Unfortunately, we have lost a couple of drivers due to load shedding here in South Africa, but they will be coming back for round number 3, determined to make up some points, but to go and try and close up on the championship. 3 rounds makes it very difficult, but it also makes it difficult to outright win a championship unless you've managed to score enough spacing in first place.
Yeah, at this stage, you know, Troy Dolenchek, he's got a slight bit of a gap, 0.2 of a second out in front. The rest of the field extremely close, but Steve, strategy in the pre-final. You've been out on track, practice, qualifying. You see a lot of people around you make mistakes. So what is your strategy going to be? Are you going to go all out? Oh, as we see Andrew Thomas and William Marshall come together there. But, having said that, What is your strategy going to be? Are you going to hang back just a little bit in the pre-final and see if guys don't make mistakes, or are you going to put it all out there and risk everything and try and get up as high as possible as you can?
So, being a 2-heat system, you want to try and figure out what you can do. I think race number 1, don't wear yourself out so much. Rather try and figure out what you can do to keep up a little bit of momentum, keep the pressure onto the guys. You're seeing guys making mistakes. So follow through on lap 1. Just see where things are going out. When you get to about lap 5, then start working out your overtaking. But at the moment, from lap 1 to lap 3 is going to be absolutely crazy. Sebastian Diaz going and sending it into the pits.
He parked it on the trailer.
William Marshall stopping, Mark Polland. Guys just getting ready for it. But I think at this point, you've got to just try and take it easy on the start, see what guys are doing, work on your start, and climb your way through as it goes. But, well, we'll have to find out what the strategies are as the guys get themselves ready to rock and roll. And, well, just show you a little bit of how the climb is. You can see William Marshall backing down the hill. He's off the throttle, and it's just, that's how steep it is. You can get quite a bit of momentum going down the hill.
I mean, false start, definite possibility. Yeah, I mean, the grid is not level, so these guys will have to be on that brake until the very last moment. They cannot afford to let go of it. I mean, the car's going to roll backwards.
Yeah, as we take a look at Jason Kutsia, I'm going to try and see if we can get our drone cam, and unfortunately I'm not a very good drone pilot, so as we're going to make our way through. Troy Dolanchek, Jason Kutsia lining up at the top of the field. Yuri Swart going to be in 3rd place, and we're going to have the likes of Quinton Lobisher, who's still waiting to come to grid. John Henry Vaughan, Lucas Sturman, William Marshall going and lining up. Ryan Barrington Smith waiting to line up as well. Andrew Thomas and Judy Swart going to be next to one another. Shane Lobisher, Chase Harold, and a little bit further we got the likes of Maher Wab, who is not at the moment on the grid. Sebastian Diaz, and then we've got Mark Polland, who's to come through. Melvin Trollope, who is lined up, and then we've got Jan Sparmers and Sebastian Ferreira rounding out our field here at iDube.
Now it's that horrible time for me, at least. You're sitting there on the grid. You know it's coming. You know it's going to be a fight. You've done your qualifying, so there's not much more or not anything you can do anymore about that. Now it's just a case of watching that clock run down and waiting for those lights to go off.
As we go to take a look at Troy Dolanchek lined up, Jason Kutsia ready to go, and away they go. A little bit of a slow pull off as they make their way into turn 1, but take a look, Troy going and running away, Jason Kutsia getting caught out, Yuri Swart trying to get around him as they march their way through. John Henry Vaughan also trying to get involved in the battle, and you can see Jason Kutsia now trying to go on the defense as he is getting chased down by the likes of John Henry and Quinton Lobisher, and Lucas Sturman also getting into the fight there. Yuri Swart now having to go and defend against the likes of Jason Kutsia, but Jason gets by a little bit of bumping and barging as all these guys are trying to push one another to the limit. Lucas Sturman now moving up through the field. He's keeping an eye on the likes of John at the moment. Yuri Swart starting to open up a bit of a gap, and take a look at Quinton from far back. Oh, contact. Quinton unfortunately going and causing a bit of an accident there. Chase Harold moving up, and he's going to be quite happy with that, taking a little bit more of a relaxed start. Jude Swart going and chasing down as well as they make their way through, really putting on the power.
Yeah, I mean, in the first lap, Troy Dolanchek pulled out a 1.4 second gap over Jason Kutsia, so he's got clear air in front of him, and I'm pretty sure Jason and Yuri would like to go chasing after him fairly quickly and you know, not let him get away. Otherwise, he might just run away with it. As we see Yuri Swart, John Henry Vaughan in front of them, Jason Kutsia. These three are in a epic battle for second place. I mean, we saw them earlier going side by side as Yuri gets a better exit there, you know, putting the pressure onto Jason, but John Henry Vaughan closely behind them. I mean, we saw them earlier, Stephen, going side by side, and to do side by side on a track like this, that takes some doing.
Well, there you definitely have some tennis balls. Um, can't you have to say it correctly there. But it is absolutely amazing where the guys are really putting in the extra work. Yuri Swart pulling a beautiful maneuver on Jason. Jason losing a bit of drive. John Henry Vaughan, though, despite having that contact earlier, now into this fight, he's really focusing on putting enough pressure onto the back of Jason Kutsia, hoping to force Jason into a mistake, or to push him to go after Yuri as hard as possible. While they're doing this, they're losing time to Troy Dolenchik, who's obviously got the cart dialed in, putting a 2.5 second gap, and this is only lap 4. Quinton starting to catch up onto the back of them as well. So keep an eye on Quinton as he's going to really close down on these three.
Yeah, I mean, the race just got started, but we're already almost halfway through, and that's one thing we need to remember. This pre-final is it's a very short race. So Yuri, Jason, John Henry Vaughan, I mean, at this stage they're battling for second place, but you know, Troy at this stage running away at the front with it. But I think at this stage these three are just keeping each other so busy that's what's allowing Troy to just run away.
Well, a little bit further behind, Quinton, Chase Herald, Andrew Thomas and Jude Swart also in a battle of their own as they're trying to close down. And honestly, this has turned into second, third and fourth having their little battle. Fifth, sixth and seventh also trying to close down on it. And you can see a bit of contact.
Ooh, contact there.
Jude Swart managing to swing by. It looks like Andrew Thomas going and getting the short end of that swing. And it's allowed Mahir Wayab to get by. Chase Herald comes to a very slow go by. Mahir going past as they head up the hill. Mahir going on the outside, bit of contact between the two. Oh, bit of bumping and barging there, but the drivers all working hard. Mahir trying to undercut Chase Herald.
Oh, Chase spun out.
Jude Stewart going and losing out a bit of drive there. Mahir Wayab absolutely textbook around them.
Yeah, he's not hanging back. He wants to move to the front of the field at this stage. I mean, a couple of quick passes there, and he finds himself now in the front of this little battle. And, you know, now he needs to stay in front. I'm pretty sure Jude and, you know, Andrew is not going to let him get away. They're going to stick to the back of them as Andrew and Jude Jude on the inside, a little bit of contact, but Mahir keeping it together, and that has actually helped him open up a gap a bit.
That's it, and we got to go and see if we can move a little bit further up through the field and see how our front three are doing. As you can see, Yuri Swart starting to open up the gap to Jason Garcia, the likes of John Henry Vaughan really trying to close up into the toe. And these are the little battles, the double heats, and this is what makes it very interesting. 12 laps around the circuit, and you're doing under a minute per time is a really difficult thing. You've got to really get aggressive in your driving, but you've also got to try and think of a long game into this. And this is what the drivers are having to struggle and figure out what's going to be the best advantage for them as the gap starts to open up. And you can see Yuri Swart trying to get away from Jason Kutsia, John Henry Vaughan as well, hoping to try and get back into the toe. Quinton Lobisher starting to close down on them, but not by much though. Mario Webb going and open up a bit of a lead to Andrew Thomas. Jude Stewart trying to get a little bit closer. Shane Lobisher trying to close up on everyone, but he's in a bit of no man's land at the moment. Melvin Trollope trying to chase him down. William Marshall just trying to get a little bit of momentum as he makes his way around the course. Lucas Sturman, who is also just trying to chase him down. Not too far behind though is Sebastian Diaz, as he is really putting on the power to try and move up through the field. Ryan Barrington-Smith with a bit of damage to his kart, losing a lot of drive. We've seen his nose cone lying on the ground by our start of the finish line. And take a look at this. Mark Pollard, Sebastian Ferreira and Troy Dolenchik. So Dolenchik trying to catch up and get past these back markers who are fighting for position. And Dolenchik just saying thank you very much guys, gets by. Mark Polland actually losing out of position there. Sebastian going and utilizing our front running Troy Dolenchik to go and put a bit of a open up a door. Mark Polland trying to go up on the inside. Remember, Mark has also got no nose cone there, so he is suffering a bit of damage as they make their way through.
Yeah, just out of interest, I see we've got two retirements. Chase Herald and Jan Sparmers unfortunately not making the end of the race. So they unfortunately, maybe had an incident each, and which resulted them in unable to finish the race. As we watch John Henry Vaughan and Quinton Loubser battle it out. I mean, Quinton Loubser running wide and spinning out, and that's the danger, Stephen, of just pushing that little bit too hard.
Getting a little bit too close, and now as they start making their way through the back markers, this is where it's going to get very, very interesting. Likes of Jason Coetzee trying to get past, dives up on the inside. John Henry Vaughan trying to get a little bit closer, and as they battle their way through, and you can see John up on the inside, doesn't give Jason any room to go and turn in onto that apex and blast past. Jason trying to fight back, but the back markers coming into play and forcing the drivers having to adapt, while our back markers are also in their own race. 11 laps done and waiting to get onto the final lap as our leader is making his way through the field. But the battle for third place at the moment is turning into a monstrous thing. Yuri Swart has managed to open up a bit of a gap to the likes of John Henry Vaughan and Jason Coetzee at the moment, as they've taken their way around the course. You can see Yuri Swart hoping to just try and get the apex, eventually getting it, but the cart's starting to understeer quite a bit there.
There's an apex, somewhere out there, but I think Yuri, has opened up just a little bit of a gap, and it has allowed, he's used that to his advantage, so that John Henry Vaughan and Jason Coetzee, they battle each other, slowing themselves up, and, that's allowed him to get away. As we watch Troy Jolonjek, last lap, I mean, Stephen, 4-second gap in the space of 12 laps.
Absolutely incredible stuff, and going and stretching out that point gap, utilizing this, but a little bit further back, we have to keep an eye on the likes of Yuri Swart starting to break away a little bit closer. John Henry Vaughan and Jason Coetzee are still going to be fighting out amongst each other, which is absolutely amazing stuff as they power their way around the course.
Yeah, absolutely, and that's the pre-final basically done almost. I mean, it was almost done before it began. And now we move on to the final. Now it's a slightly longer race, 17 laps. So it's going to be another interesting race, and we'll have to see if there's a different strategy for the guys. Are they going to go flat out, or keeping in mind it's 5 laps longer? Sounds a lot longer, but Steve, I think we're talking about not even 4 minutes longer the race.
Well, that's it, and a couple of guys just getting a little bit argy-bargy as the race is over. But Janneman, take us through who finished where, while our cards decide to venture off into the distance.
Well, first place, Troy Dolenchek, followed by Yuri Swart. Third place, John Henry Vaughan. Then fourth place, we got Jason Coetzee, followed in fifth by Mahir Wahab. Sixth place, Jude Stewart. Seventh place, Andrew Thomas. Then Melvin Trollop in eighth. Quinton Labuskachny in ninth place. Lucas Stremming in 10th. William Marshall 11th. Sebastian Diaz 12th. Ryan Barrington-Smith 13th place. 14th place, Sebastian Verre. 15th place, Mark Pollard. 16th, Sean Loubser. Then retired Chase Herald and Jan Sparmers. So a couple of guys, not having a very good first race, and they will have to try and make it up in the second race.
And that's it, and it's going to be a very, very interesting one, as you see the guys just going and enjoying a little bit of a drive, something you can't actually do at the circuit, but the guys just going and throwing it around, running anti-clockwise, why not? And this is what Troy Dolenchek actually landing up against William Marshall there. I know the two of them are chatting to each other on Discord. But it's very interesting to see. And now moving on to heat number 2 for the Online Karting Africa League. And a big thank you to everyone joining. And if you are interested of being a part of this, go and take a look in our bio. There is a link to our website. Feel free to go and click on that. Join up and also become part of the future seasons of the OKLA, and hope to see you guys racing on more and more circuits. So there's lots of new circuits coming into the mix that have been laser scanned. We've got Chelso Scribanti, who has been laser scanned. We've got the likes of Squat Corps, iDube, Verenigen Karting, and so much more to come. And keep an eye on the social media as it climbs through. So feel free, go in and click on it. Big thank you to all our sponsors for also helping out, like Against All Odds, for going and putting in a huge amount of work, and Afri Racing as well being a big part of the whole scheme. Gentlemen, race number 2 lining up, going to be a bit of fun here.
Yeah, and you know, we're going to see that slow motion start again, but keep in mind, this grid is on a very steep uphill. So these small cars struggling to get away off the line. So, you know, do you think it makes the start a bit easier that it happens a bit slower and not that quick, or not really?
No. I think it makes it a lot worse because you're busy rocking around in your rig. So let's try and get a little bit of drone footage from up top. And I am not a pilot. I do not pretend to be a pilot, so I do apologize. But let's go through. Troy Dolanchik, Henry Vaughan, Jason Coetzee, Jude Stewart going and lining up. Mahir Wob is going to be ahead of him. A little bit further down, we got the likes of Andrew Thomas, Melvin Trollope, Quinton Lobisher, Lucas Sturman, William Marshall, Sebastian Diaz, and then we have got the likes of Ryan Barrington-Smith, Sebastian Ferreira, Mark Pollen, Sean Lobisher, and Jan Sparmers, along with Chase Herald rounding out our field.
And yet again, now you wait 45 seconds to go. So far, Steve, first start successful. Let's see if they can follow suit in the second race. We've had no false starts tonight, which is well done to the guys. I mean, this is a very big uphill they're starting on, very easy to roll backwards and so forth.
And a couple of guys saying can't wait for Kalani to be released. I have to agree with that one. Melvin Trollope trying to get off the line a little bit quicker. Jude going to the middle of the circuit, hoping to go and hold out. Quinton Lobisher getting a very good start there as they power their way through. Andrew Thomas also getting a bit of a drive. Mahir Wob a little bit further up the field, now chasing after John Henry Vaughan, hoping to get a little bit closer to the likes of it. Troy Dolanchik not pulling away as quickly as he did. The guys managed to dial in the carts a little bit more. Yuri Swart now getting onto the back of him and hoping to go and give him a run for his money. But John Henry having to battle out with Jason Coetzee all over the back of him. Mahir Wob going and losing out a bit of drive to them as well as they power their way through.
I mean, you know, we look at the second start, and I think the guys like Yuri Swart, John Henry Vaughan, especially Yuri, they figured out what they did wrong on that first start, and they obviously rectified it a bit, and that has allowed them to keep closer to Troy. As Yuri Swart follows Troy around very closely, they've opened up a little bit of a gap to John Henry Vaughan and Jason Coetzee.
Well, that's it, but first and second in their own little tussle. You got third and fourth going and duking it out, and that's John Henry Vaughan and Jason Coetzee. Jason up on the inside. John Henry trying to make up a bit of ground a little bit further back. We've got Mahir Wob just keeping ahead of Andrew Thomas, and here we go. A little bit of a loss of drive for William Marshall. Jude Swart capitalizing on it. Quinton Lobisher and Lucas Sturman all getting into a monster fight between one another, and Jude getting a little bit pushed out wide by William Marshall. Quinton going and landing on the dirt as he tries to take avoidance onto it. But the guy's really having to work hard here. Andrew Thomas trying to make up a bit of time to everyone else. But what a turn of events. Luca starting to climb up a little bit. At the moment, Jude trying to get back onto that train after a little bit of a disastrous run as they look to finish lap number 3. William Marshall really trying to go onto the inside of Quinton. Quinton not backing down. Quinton hoping to try and defend, but couldn't make a stick. Actually goes off, gets a little bit of a bump against Luca. William Marshall cutting on the inside.
Yeah, and it's something we've seen a couple of times through the hairpin tonight. The guys, getting that flow wrong, not keeping that momentum, and that cost them dearly on exit. And we just literally see them getting swamped as we watch the battle in front. Troy Dolanchik and Yuri Swart. Troy not pulling away this time. Yuri keeping him in check, and at this stage, I think just sitting there behind him, weighing out his options, when would be the best time to attack him, as we see that cart squirming a bit on the Yuri. So, he's definitely got a loose setup on there, but they say loose is fast.
Well, that's it, but you also don't want to lose up the drive up the hill, as we could see the slipstream effect. John Henry Vaughan just going and giving Jason a little bit of a tag on the back, saying, listen, buddy, I'm coming. You best hold on for dear life, because we're going to make up some ground on you. And so Jason having to keep an eye on that as John really focuses on it. Mahir Waib a little bit further behind. He's hoping just to keep an eye on the battle, but closing down on him is Andrew Thomas, who is really on a hard charge at the moment.
Yeah, I think Mahir, needs to keep his lines clean, corners and, apexes and exits, because it looks like very soon he might have some company from Andrew Thomas, and then he will have to start thinking about defending that position. But, at this stage, keeping it clean, just staying out in front, and let Andrew catch up to you. And I don't think at this stage, he will be keeping an eye on things, but at this stage he will not really worry about William or Andrew at this stage.
That's it, and a little bit up ahead you can see John Henry Vaughan still tussling out as we're looking for all the dices going around. Everywhere you look, guys are just battling it out. And a lot of guys going and choosing different karts, different manufacturers. Like we've got our Tony karts, we've also got our CRGs, Burrells. Burrells being my personal favorite, and old PCRs. I don't think aren't on yet. Ooh, bit of contact there. John Henry Vaughan and the likes of Jason Coetzee coming together. Jason losing a little bit of time there. Mahir going and seeing this and looks to try and get a little bit closer. Andrew Thomas trying to brake a little bit later to carry the momentum as they launches their way around. But little things like that, small mistakes, can change your entire race here at iDube.
I mean, especially if they're running that close, it doesn't take a lot to spoil your race. Interesting thing, first race we saw the battle of threes. Now in the second race we're seeing the battle of twos. Troy Dolanchek, Yuri Swartz, a little bit further backwards now. Mahir Wahab also starting to get into a bit of a battle. So definitely different type of racing, second race to the first race.
And it just shows how people are getting warmed up with the racing. The guys are getting the swing into it, hoping to get a little bit more pace out of it. And, this is what's great to see. Likes of Troy Dolanchek, Yuri Swart going and slugging it out, and Yuri really trying to get a little bit closer. Tries to look for that inside line, but Troy just keeping it nice and clean as he powers his way through. John Henry now opening up that monstrous gap to Jason Coetzee after the contact. Mahir Waib now dealing with Andrew Thomas at the moment as they power their way around the circuit. A little bit further back though, we've got William Marshall, followed by Quinton Lobisher. He's getting chased down by Lucas Sermon. Ryan Barrington-Smith a bit of lonesome at the moment. He's just cruising around. Melvin Trollope as well, as he just tries to keep it all going. Shane, a little bit further down than where he wanted to be. He's getting chased down by Sebastian Ferreira. And then a little bit further down, number 21. And this is Jan Sparmers as he goes to try and power his way through. But he is about to have a big problem as our leaders are closing down on him at a rate of knots.
Yeah, and they're not going to hang back. But just going back to the first heat, second heat thing, Steve, in the first heat, when you made mistakes, you can learn from those mistakes and you can try and rectify them in the second race. And that's also one of the reasons why we're now seeing a lot closer racing between the likes of Troy Dolanchek and Yuri Swart. Obviously, Yuri learned a lot from that. As we saw a little bit of contact between William Marshall and Andrew Thomas, and William Marshall sending it up the inside, and that's allowed him to get past Andrew there.
Bit of lick it and send at moments, and Luca and Mahir Waib going and duking it out. But yeah, this is the thing. You get to learn your competition. You get a little bit more of an iron, as our comments have brought up. Quality racing. And I have to agree, the guys are able to stick it side by side. Yes, there is a bit of rubbing paint, but this is a little bit of a contact sport, so you got to get used to having a bit of roughed up situations. But absolutely amazing to see the guys just putting that extra little bit of effort to try and close down on everyone. Yeah,
you mentioned it's a bit of a contact sport, similar to touring cars, but unfortunately the cars don't have rear view mirrors, but like in touring cars, they say if you finish the race with both rear view mirrors intact, you haven't raced.
Yeah, that's it. And with karting, this is grassroots. If you want to go and become a Formula 1 driver, if you want to go and climb your way through the ladder in any form of motorsport, you start out in karting. You can go and ask any one of these fantastic drivers, and you've got guys like the Troy Dolanchek, the Yuri Swart, the likes of Andrew Thomas, all that have been racing for years in different classes, going and having a bit of fun. They all started out in karting as kids and worked their way through with some phenomenal racing, learning the basics of everything to eventually become the champions that they are.
Yeah, absolutely, and I think it's very nice for the likes of these guys to go back to kart racing, because in the sim racing world, it's been all about the bigger cars, but this is the first real league that we have going back to karting, and as you said, the grassroots level of racing.
That's it. As we are on lap 12 of 17, Yuri Swat still not being able to get around Troy Dolanchik at the moment as they make their way through. We go to John Henry Vaughan. He's still open up a monstrous gap to the likes of Jason Couture after that impact. Jason just not able to get the same drive. Jan Sparmer's getting lapped as he tries to make his way around. He actually looks like he's got a bit of damage to the front end of his kart, and just trying to keep the pace up. A little bit further down, well, a little bit more upper field to the likes of Jan Sparmers, who's currently in 14th position. Let's head up to William Marshall, who is in 5th position, getting chased down by Andrew Thomas. We saw him lick it and send it and really go for it, and now hoping to just try and put up a little bit of spacing between himself and Andrew Thomas.
Yeah, but at this stage, it looks like Andrew is sticking closely behind, so I don't think Marshall at this stage is pulling away at a rate, that he would be happy with, as we see Andrew closing up there under the braking and, lifting the rear end there by Marshall, trying to get around that corner as quickly as possible. So he's definitely laying the hammer down, but Andrew at this stage pretty much sticking with him.
And this is the whole thing about it. And if you guys are really interested of joining, and I've really actually employed people to do this, come and join in with the OKLA League. Go and be a part of the Online Karting League Africa, especially with the South African circuits being laser scanned, being put into a sim to go and have a bit of fun, and also for karting to get a little bit of love. It really shows how much sim racing has grown and where it's actually going. You can go from your grassroots up to your GTs, but to have South African circuits made by South Africans in sims like these, you feel a sense of pride.
It's special. I mean, it's not like most of the other sims out there. We race all the international tracks. I mean, this is local. It's our tracks, and it's done by, as you said, South Africans.
And South African sim racers. So it's not just built by someone in an office. I'm just going to put that one out there. Quinton Lobisher all over the likes of William Marshall. Andrew Thomas actually falling way down. So something's happened to Andrew. And that has allowed the likes of Quinton and Luca to get by. William Marshall now having to deal with Quinton all over the back of him. And this is not what you want to be having in the second last lap of the race, as the guys really battle their way through. Jan Sparmers now has to keep his eyes behind him, as this little tussle is going to get very, very close, and looks like it's going to catch him through the S's. You could see how Marshall's trying to line up that inside line, hooks a curb, bounces up. Jan Sparmers gets out the way. Quinton tries to go up on the inside, hoping to get a little bit of a drive late on the brakes, and oh, massive contact, and that's kind of sent both of them into the wall for their racing.
Yeah, remember they don't have reverse, né? There's no hooking reverse and reversing it out of there.
But that's kind of changed it up for the likes of Luca, who was just cruising around, watching the guys, now going to be sitting with a bit of a smile on his face as he moves up into 5th place, looking to go after the likes of Jason Kutsi, a little bit further up the road from him. John Henry Vaughan currently in 3rd place. Yuri Swart in 2nd place with Troy Dolanchik now going and stretching that gap away from 2nd place. So got a little bit of momentum, but Yuri's not going to give up right until the line. But it looks like Troy Dolanchik going to be crossing the line ahead of the field, so finishing up in 1st place, 2 for 2, going to be happy with that. Yuri Swart in 2nd, going to be very happy with that result. John Henry Vaughan in 3rd place, Jason Kutsi going and finishing up in 4th place. Sebastian Ferreira, who is a little bit further down the field. We have got Lucas Sturman in 5th place, Andrew Thomas going and finishing up in 6th place. Mahir Waib, as we saw, finishing up in 7th. Ryan Barrington-Smith going and finishing in 8th place. Shane Lobisher coming around, making his way into the top 10, 9th place. And Melvin Trollope coming across the line, taking the top 10. Sebastian, then we've got the likes of Quinton Lobisher, Sebastian Ferreira, Jan Sparmers in 13th place, with a couple of retirements being William Marshall, Mark Pollen, Jude Stewart, Sebastian Diaz, and Chase Harold going. Chase Harold unfortunately not starting, the others landing up with retirements due to incidents in the race. But what a action-packed race for the guys, and wow, I don't know what to say other than that was amazing.
Yeah, I see the guys having a little bit of fun there at the end of the race, just as they did at the end of the pre-final. As kart racing goes, Steve, I mean it's close racing. iDube lived up to everything that I thought it was going to be. I mean, as I said at the beginning, it's up, down, left, right, blind corners, hairpins. I mean, we saw some awesome racing. We saw some awesome passes. We saw some bit of contact, but in this kind of racing, close racing, that sometimes, comes to be expected.
All right, well, we're going to start pulling the guys through, and let's start off with our 3rd place, John Henry Vaughan. So let's bring him into the box. John Henry Vaughan, welcome to the box, finishing up in 3rd place in the 2nd heat, and what a fantastic run there. A bit of a close racing, not an easy one. You had to work incredibly hard, a little bit of contact. How are you feeling after that at iDube?
How's it, guys? Yeah, that was an awesome race. Unfortunately, I didn't have the pace to keep up with Troy and Umpi, but it was close racing, and I guess it went well.
Oh, it was
some good ones.
It was absolutely. And now round 2 over. Any plans for round number 3 of what to do?
Unfortunately, I don't think I'm in the championship. In round 1, I had a problem with my wheel, but round 3, I guess we can still make the most of it and see what we can do with the setup and so on and so forth, and try to get closer to Troy and Umpi.
Oh, it's absolutely amazing. Janneman, anything from your side for John Henry?
Well, I need to say to John Henry, don't count yourself out just yet. In a short championship like this, things can change up very quickly.
Definitely, yeah. There's still points to be made. As you said, it's a short championship and anything can happen.
Absolutely. Well done once again, and big thank you to John Henry Vaughan for coming into the box. Another person that's actually into the box is, let's bring up Jason Kutsi. Jason Kutsi, glad to have you here, buddy. A little bit further down where you wanted some very close racing and getting to chat to one another. Usually we on a different versing each other, but how did it feel going and racing around iDube? Very, very close racing, and a circuit that you've actually done a few laps around.
Oh, how's it, Stephen? Yeah, it was quite fun. I mean, it's quite fun to race with all your friends on the sim, and obviously you don't get to do that much often around iDube in real life, since obviously it is a private owned track. But yeah, anyways, I mean, yeah, it was super fun. Just a few mistakes which cost me a bit of time, especially in the first race, but I mean, it's always a joy. At least this time it was a lot cleaner.
Alright, and Janneman, anything from your side?
Quick question. Now, having raced around iDube in real life and on the sim, can you describe for the viewers out there, what's the difference, and especially in the physical side of things, what's the difference between real life racing and the sim racing around the track like this?
Jeez, I mean, probably the G-forces that you get around this track. Thunderdome is probably one of the most daunting corners on that track, especially when it rains. But yeah, I mean, it's not too far off. Obviously, it doesn't have the G-forces that we get in real life, but I mean, hands down to Shannon and them for getting all these SA tracks. It's quite fun to drive on all of them on the sim. Yeah, I mean, there's not much more to say.
Excellent.
We'll get G-forces. Watch, it's coming. We've got active brake pedals and everything starting to come into play. So I think we will get G-forces eventually coming into it. Big thank you, and once again, well done, Jason, for all the hard work in the race. And we're going to move into the boxer, Yuri Swart. So let's bring Yuri into it. Yuri Swart, welcome, buddy. Going and finishing up in second place in heat number 2. How are you feeling after that? Getting a little bit closer to Troy and trying to get on the inside of him once, twice, 3 times more.
Yeah, that was very lekker. But yeah, race 1, Troy got the break in the beginning. Jason and I had a lekker dice. Race 2, I made 1 or 2 small changes, and yeah, it seemed to work well. And then when I followed Troy a bit, just got an idea of roughly, you know, a few different lines. And yeah, it paid off. Troy was running, looked like a slightly bigger sprocket than me, so we were quicker in different sections, but it was very punishing for me if I made a mistake. But kudos for him for keeping me behind, because yeah, there were 1 or 2 times where I flipped this game, you know, it can so quickly bite you. And just for me, it was good to just drive behind him and see if I could hang in there the whole race. And on the 3rd last lap, while trying too hard, I made 1 small mistake, and I was thinking about it, but that sort of, yeah, that made the decision for me. But, you know, in the end of the day, it's just one of those things, and still happy to have held a candle to Troy. I think it's always tough to do so.
And maximizing some of the points in the championship, that's not a bad idea.
No, not at all, not at all. Look, it's been a lot of second places. I would love to get a win, you know, just for the fun of it, but it's always going to be tough to beat Troy, so we're going to have to knuckle down. But I did a lot less practice for this round, and I think it actually paid off a lot, you know, a lot less thinking and a lot more doing. So maybe I'll try the similar strategy for next one, because it definitely was better than doing too many laps last time.
Just arrive and drive.
Yeah, just, you know, don't overthink it. That's one thing I do very well, is overthink things.
Yeah, I mean, I actually mentioned to Steven on the stream, you obviously figured out what you did wrong in the first race, and you rectified that in the second race, that allowed you to keep that much closer to Troy.
Yes, no, 100%. I mean, I think it was a very small change, but I think most of it came from the driving, because the first 3-4 laps I was still doing the same pace as before, and then something just clicked after lap 5 or 6 and just went down. When Troy, you know, put the hammer down, I could go with him instead of, usually I can stay with him for 2-3 laps, and then inevitably it's sort of above what I'm comfortable with doing and I make a mistake. And for me, it was nice to be able to hang in there for so long. I just wish the race was either 2 laps shorter, or I didn't make a mistake, one of the two. But in the end, you know, that's racing, and if you want to win, you can't make mistakes. So
fair enough.
Excellent.
Absolutely wonderful stuff. Thank you very much for joining us, Yuri, and look after yourself, and good luck for round number 3 and also your racing upcoming. Let's move up to have Troy Dolenchik. Troy, buddy, another number 1 underneath and another trophy on the cabinet. How are you feeling after that, racing iDube for the OKLA round number 2 for the Launch Cup?
How's it, Stephen? Yeah, no, awesome race. Both races obviously very, very tough with the result. The second race obviously kept on my toes by Umpi, so awesome race compared to Vinniging, where they obviously had a bit of a scuffle. But yeah, really enjoyed the race. Looking forward to more of it in Swartkops. But yeah, very, very different race to what we usually have. With Umpi and I think we had a bit of a different setup on both of our carts. I think I had a bit of a setup that helped me a bit up the hills, which is obviously key here. We had a bit of a straight line speed setup. So it was very cool to see the differences and the difference in pace that we had. But yeah, really enjoyed it and really, really chuffed with the result.
Absolutely phenomenal stuff. And we had a chat to Yuri, and he said that he did a little bit of a sprocket change. That seemed to have helped him, and following out your lines. Now, adding more points to the championship, you're pretty much looking good heading into Swartkops, but anything can happen. Any plans for round number 3, the final round at Swartkops? I mean, this is where pressure starts mounting, and as we know, Swartkops can be a very difficult circuit when it wants to be.
Yeah, look, at the end of the day, I think it's very difficult to plan racing, so obviously we'll just go at it like we did this for this round and just give it everything from the beginning. But yeah, obviously just try and enjoy it. That's always the key to success, especially when racing, is just try and enjoy it as much as you can.
Absolutely. And Janaman, anything from your side to the likes of Troy Dolenchik?
Actually, not a question. I actually want to congratulate Troy on that first race of him. I mean, to pull that gap in a 12-lap race on such a short track. I mean, that takes some doing. So yeah, I just want to say well done from our side.
Thank you very much, Jan.
Absolutely phenomenal stuff. And Troy, good luck with the future racing, and we'll look forward to seeing how you go in round number 3 for the OKLA Launch Cup. And it's going to be phenomenal. And Yanaman, got to say, phenomenal racing at iDube. Been some very close racing, been some exciting stuff. Any closing thoughts from your side as we look towards round number 3 next week?
Well, Stephen, next week we're moving up to the inlands, a bit higher altitude again, up to the Pretoria side, Swartkorps. Very different track to iDube again. And it's the last round of the championship, so it's drawing to a close. So, I think it would be interesting to see come next week, where is the championship standing and how close is it going to be, and who needs to do what in that final round to secure the championship.
That's it. And well, to everyone, big thank you for joining us this evening. Make sure you go and share the footage far and wide. And if you want to be part of the OKLA, the Online Karting League Africa, feel free to go to the website. It is in our bio. Go and click there, join up, be a part of it, come and race on these sims. Many more South African circuits coming out on it, and many more circuits coming out a little bit later, going further up into Africa. So keep an eye on our social media, such as the website and also our Facebook page. From my side, Stephen Koenig, the world's fastest back marker, and from Janneman Price, the world's slowest alien, we'd like to say thank you very much. A big thank you to all our sponsors and to you guys at home for inviting us into your homes. Once again, we didn't make ourselves far too comfortable, but we did have a glass of Coke out your fridge. Don't worry about that.
Good night, everyone.
Have a good one, and we'll see you next time right here on the Online Karting League Africa and round number 3, Swartkorps. Keep an eye on it.